All right, so the next talk is useful human implants. Ryan O'Shea is an entrepreneur and a futurist speaker from Pittsburgh. He's the host of Future Grind, a podcast, which is a video series that explores ethics and implications of emerging science and technology. Anastasia is a stunt and magic performer, transhumanist, and biohacker. She performs regularly in Las Vegas and Los Angeles, and she's married to the amazing Jonathan.
Who's in the audience, sitting in the back? Say hi.
Oh, hi! I loved your documentary. So Amazing Jonathan just came out with a documentary on Hulu, so I would highly recommend you check that out. Just say hi. Interesting fact, she currently has 25 implants and counting.
26.
26! Record. All right.
So there are a ton of great speakers here at Biohack the Planet, but I don't think any introduction is going to be better than the one that you just did on stage here. I think this is definitely above what we've seen so far. So yeah, as was mentioned, I am Ryan O'Shea. I'm the host of the Future Grind podcast, which is focused on exploring the ethics and impact of emerging science and technology. And human augmentation and elective human implants, I think, are going to be one of those technologies that are going to impact our future greatly. And we're here at a conference called Biohack the Planet. And most of what we've talked about so far has been do-it-yourself biology or DIY bio. But there's another aspect of biohacking, which is this elective implant of technology under the skin. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. And humans have been using technology to augment our capabilities from our earliest days. We used boats to cross oceans, we used housing and clothing to survive in hostile environments, and we're still using that today. But I think one of the most important technologies that we created was when we started using fire to cook our food. When we started doing this millenniums ago, our mouths changed, and over time our digestive systems changed in response to the food that we are now eating. So in this way, it's a feedback loop. We design the technology, we use the technology, and the technology in turn designs us. We are not separate from it. It has been this symbiotic relationship from the beginning, and that's only continuing. Today, the medical industry uses things like cochlear implants and prosthetic limbs and deep brain stimulators inside the body. But in many cases, these are used for rehabilitative or therapeutic purposes, but they can do so much more than that. So what we're interested in today is exploring how people are working to augment human capabilities with elective implants. And I think we've seen a great example of that here. So a couple of things that are most commonly used are things like magnet implants or RFID chips, which can do things like sensory augmentation or identity verification. But one of the main criticisms is, yeah, but you can do that with an external wearable device. Why do you want to do something invasive like implanted? And I think what we've seen from Anastasia is an example of how implanting can be better and be used in ways that you can't use external wearable devices. So that's what we're going to get into now.
Yay.
So I'd love to hear just a brief introduction about you. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Anastasia Synn. I'm a magician. I'm more focused on designing implant technology for magicians right now than I am in performing it myself, because my husband and I are pretty much retired. We get to just chill out at home, and I get to make shit. So that's fun. And the magnets are what really drew me to using them in magic, because we use a lot of magnets in magic. We can put little magnetic things in pretty much anything, and once that happens, if I have magnets that are big enough, which is to say bigger than the ones that people have been getting for electrosense stimulation or feeling electromagnetic fields, but I went bigger than that and bigger than that and bigger than that, and I could get magnets that could do all kinds of great things like activate motors, magnetic reed switches, ignite fires, steal things out of people's hands when they're not noticing, keep things stored on my body, and now I'm working on lights that I can steal out of this flower, which I'll demonstrate in a bit, and throw them under my skin. So a light from my thumb to a flower to under my skin, and there'll be 3 different colors that I'm implanting.
So you touched upon a lot of things there that we're going to get into in more detail. But first of all, it was mentioned that you have 26 implants.
Yeah.
What's the breakdown of those and how are those used?
It's hard to remember, honestly, without my list. But for the most part, I have the 9 magnets right now. I'm getting a 10th one this afternoon over at Doug's booth. I highly recommend anyone who wants an upgrade, go over to see Doug. But the ones that I have that are magnets, I have 7 in my left hand, including one on the back of my wrist that can stop a watch. I'm designing a trick where I have a cybernetic finger, and I can drop it. It's hard to explain the trick, but basically I have a fake finger attached to this magnet here, and I can unscrew my finger, show you that it comes off and has blinking lights inside of it, and then drop it into this magnet that I've implanted here, and then I have normal fingers again, but I'm actually hiding the gimmick back here. I'm going to be giving away some magic tricks today, people, so any magicians in the audience, don't get mad at me, please. It's for the purpose of science, and I think that's important. So the other things in my hand here, I have magnets in the palms of my hands, and that one here also comes in handy for holding coins, so I can have a coin in my purse, but I'll show you how I can dig it out. Talk amongst yourselves.
So one of the things that I'm very interested in is the way that Anastasia gets implants that are typically in placements that aren't often used. We can get into that a little bit more, but when you get a finger magnet, it's typically, as the name would suggest, in the finger. People also get them in the tragus to help with sensory augmentation of hearing. But you're getting these things in placements that are not typically seen. Is that more difficult for you, or how do you see people react to that when they're in these unexpected places?
For the most part, people don't notice that I have them. So, for example, the one that I have here in my forearm, unless I'm sitting like this, you're not going to see it, but it's, as far as I know, the world's largest magnet implant. And the beauty about this one is I can actually, if you give me your hand, I can put that in your hand and go, look, I can make that vanish by pushing that button on your chest, and it's gone. Technically, I can show both sides of my hands, but it's actually back here. So it's really good for stealing things out of people's hands without them noticing. As long as they're magnetic, of course. And then the ones on my hand can hold coins, so I can literally just go, oh look, nothing in my hand. And to a magician, it doesn't, magicians kind of palm with their hands kind of like this. I can put my hand wide open and then produce the coin. This is actually kind of light. Normally I throw it and catch it. So, and then of course I can have it stuck to like all different parts. The one on the back of my wrist that stops ladies' watches is just an old mentalism trick from back in the 50s. And the tragus magnet in my ear is probably the most fun because it connects to a Bluetooth copper wire thing that I wear in my hair, and it can actually vibrate the magnet so I can be on a phone call and nobody on stage is aware that I'm on a phone call and getting secret information. So that comes in really handy, especially when we're going to integrate it with the computer that's going in my leg, which I'll talk about soon too.
So how long have you been doing this? When did you get involved in it?
Not that long ago, like maybe 2.5 years. It's basically my first Body Hacks convention, I think, was probably about 6 months before that, and I came out to Body Hacks not last year, but the year before for the first time, followed it up with Grindfest, and I just kind of went crazy after that with implants. I went out to Jeff's house and said, let's see what we can do. How big can we go? What are you willing to put in? And as long as, you know, he seems to trust me and knows my judgment is good, that I'm not going to do anything stupid to my body, we make joint decisions on what to implant, and so far I'm really happy with everything I have.
So we've talked mainly so far about magnet implants, but you're also big on RFIDs and NFCs. That takes there's a bit of like technical ability there when it comes to programming these things. Do you have a technical background, and if not, how has that been a barrier to you using these devices? Has it been?
Oh, totally. It's a big problem. I don't have a technical background other than the NFC Tools app that I can get on my Android phone. I really don't know how to use a Proxmark 3 to program a hotel key onto my chip on my own. I would need somebody else who's more proficient at it to do it. That's a problem. Also, we're looking at upgrading the reader technology that exists out there just for magicians to use, because there's tons of locks that work with NFC tags, but the problem is the little chips don't read as well as they should, and the locks don't put out enough of a signal, so we're trying to make locks. Tim Cannon's actually designing a lock that will send out a large signal so that I can hook it up to locks on my feet. So when my hands and my feet are locked up in an X position, this is to full magicians, that I can actually just break out of the foot lock by turning my foot to the side, letting my NFC lock or tags that are in my feet unlock the locks, if that makes any sense.
So we talked a lot about how these things are used in your acts, but the title of the presentation is Useful Human Implants. So how are they used in your day-to-day life beyond being used in your performances?
Beyond that, I have a Samsung door lock, which was extremely easy to program with the XMT chip. So if you are interested in getting a chip, that's the one that I really recommend, because you can instantly go on Amazon, buy the Samsung lock, install it in your house, and program your chip just by programming the tags that come with it. It programs exactly the same way. So other than that, I pretty much use it. I have an upgraded chip in my cat, so when I scan him, I was going to bring him today, but he was acting up. When I scan him, he can actually unlock our front door as well, and he speaks a little bit about where we found him behind the grocery store, all scabby and sad. Now he's happy and upgraded.
So you had gotten your initial implants. You mentioned Jeff Cassix, who is also known as, who does a lot of great work. Is that typically your route for getting these implants? Do you do any self-implantation, or how do you do that?
I did an episode of Life of Cyborgs, and they wanted me to do an implant on video, so I did put my middle finger magnet in myself. It was healing beautifully. I was so proud. I sent Cass a message and went, look, I did it myself. I used a tourniquet. It looks great. And then we went and did a gig in some place, and I had a bath afterwards, and I'm washing my hair, and I guess the Band-Aid came off, the Stare Strip came off, and I was brushing my hair, and I saw a magnet on my necklace. So I basically waterlogged the hell out of my hand because I take like 3-hour baths. Magnet popped out and I had to get Cass to put it back in. But it's in there good now, and it's strong enough to operate reed switches and magnet motors. And there's tons of tricks that you can design that work with those things.
So that brings up a good point here. I know a lot of people with many implants, but you are the most implanted person that I know. And honestly, if anyone else knows of anyone more implanted than Anastasia, please let me know.
I know one person.
You do?
I don't know if she removed the implants after she put them in, but she's in Finland, I want to say. And it was an artist who actually programmed, she put something like 45 implants down the side of her body and programmed poetry or something. And you could go through her, I don't know if her body was naked, that would be cool. Just scan her and read the poetry. And it just seems like a really beautiful art piece. So I'm pretty sure she's got more than I do unless she pulled them out. And yes, I do put most of my chips in myself. So I had some put in by other people, but most of them are me.
So you mentioned you did the one magnet that then came out. That's a lot of people's fears, that these things are going to be rejected, or they're going to get infected, or there's going to be some other problem, maybe they'll break inside the body or cause other health issues. But statistically speaking, you probably have more chance than most to have encountered these problems.
Yeah.
What are your worst horror stories? What have you encountered any problems?
The worst thing, honestly, is for like 2 months, I thought this magnet was giving me tennis elbow. I didn't know if it was reacting, like I had pain here, and I didn't know what that was from. And it turned out to just actually be tennis elbow. It wasn't a magnet at all. Like it was, sometimes you're just sick. It's not your implants. And I get my livers and kidneys checked been doing every 3 months since I got the implants, and everything's clean and clear, so I'm not too stressed out. I worry a little bit about one implant I have on my forearm that's glass and it's right across the bone, and I've already crashed it into a wall. So it was just bad placement. We're going to fix that this weekend.
So this is a question that comes up all of the time, and I'm sure some people in the audience are thinking it now, is how does this affect you when you go to like an airport or something and you go through security?
It literally wanded me. I've gone through the scanner where you put your arms up. I've gone through the magnetic scanner. Absolutely no reaction, even when we go to shows here in Vegas. Nothing. I don't know why that is. Maybe that wand is not even on, or maybe it's maybe that's what we're finding out. I don't know. But yeah, it has no reaction. I don't know if it's looking for metal or a magnet. Maybe it doesn't pick up magnets.
So let's then talk about another aspect of security, and that's actually security of the implants themselves. So these RFID tags could theoretically be copied or scanned or modified by someone else if they know that you have them or are able to get close enough access.
Well, this is what I dealt with.
Yeah. So I mean, what are your thoughts of this? Do you have any concerns about yourself being hacked, or what that?
No, that's not possible. And honestly, these RFID chips, as they are now, read so directionally that if you don't know exactly where my chip is and exactly how to hold your phone to read it, you're not getting a read off of it. And if you're going to be touching my body like that, I'm going to punch you. So yeah, I'm not worried about that at all, but a lot of people that don't understand the technology, that's their primary fears. They think the NSA is watching them, they can be tracked by satellites, or that they can be hacked and told what to do. A lot of people have schizophrenia and think they have chips in their brains, and they're just hearing voices, but they think it's a chip because they went on Google and found about chips. It's a lot of them.
And this misconceptions about what this tech is and what it can do led to you kind of getting actively involved in advocating for some policy decisions recently, when there was a bill making its way through the Nevada state legislature here, which would effectively outlaw elective implants, including RFID chips. And you spoke in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee against this bill and in support of bodily freedom. So I want to talk a bit about what that was. What was that bill, and how did you speak against it?
It was Bill 226, put forth by a senator named Skip Daly, who had a complete misunderstanding of how the microchips worked. He thought that they could be tracked. He thought they caused cancer. He had a fleet of people behind him, like 5 people, that all testified on his behalf with completely wrong information about what microchips do. And the ending argument was, nobody has these anyway. We got to get ahead of it. We don't want anybody to, be tracked or or be hacked. And then they had one person to rebuttal it in Vegas by camera, and that was me. And the first thing I said was, I'm Anastasia and I have 26 implants. So you're not ahead of it. You're not, we've got it, it's happening, and you don't understand it, how can you regulate it? That's something that really bothers me. So once I said my piece, apparently I changed minds. And Melanie Scheibel, who's a really great senator, she's like a very advanced vegan chick, super cool, and she was just so thrilled. She invited me to come to the state capitol and for the whole day sit there and talk to people as they came through and explain what chips do and how my implants work and not to be afraid. And some people from the Transhumanist Party came out and did the same thing, and we made a big day out of it.
And Anastasia's testimony in front of that Senate Judiciary Committee is available on YouTube. I would suggest you go and check it out. It offers a great list of arguments against these bills as they come up. And I'm sure this is one example in Nevada. These bills are going to be proposed in legislatures across the country. So please keep an eye on that as it's happening. And you can use the arguments that she used there if you want to speak with your representatives against these bills as well. So please keep an eye on that. So I think the technical limitations are just one aspect that is keeping this technology held back a bit. I think another one is social stigma that comes along with it, because when people first hear about these implants, maybe not in this room here, maybe not on this live stream, but in society in general, there's often a fear factor. They think it's kind of taboo and weird, and why would you want something under your skin?
Why take the risk?
Yeah, exactly. But especially I want to know in the magic community, how has the reaction been there with other performers who are doing tricks and that you have these implants?
It's been mixed, honestly. The magic community traditionally is like an old boys club, and there's a lot of women coming into it now. So being a woman coming into it, well, I've been in it for a while, but coming into it with this type of technology where I'm like, hey guys, put magnets under your skin and you can palm coins so much easier. And they're like, just learn how to palm a coin. And I can do that. I'm trying to advance the technology. This is proof of concept. I'm not trying to tell you that your ways suck, old magician dudes. I just think that you should listen to the new people and that we can actually make things better and more efficient. And what if we start with this and we create something even bigger and bigger than that? And I think magic probably has a really good place in being able to bring implants to the world, because we have more uses for it than anyone else I can think, except for maybe someone with a disability who could use a chip to get all around their house or unlock doors. But we can really come up with interesting ways to use them. And the magnets are just the beginning. I mean, I'm looking forward to talking about the Wi-Fi computer.
Well, let's get into that now. We talked so far mainly about magnets and RFIDs, but which are passive, non-powered implants, which makes them a lot safer, but also limits their functionality in many ways. But now we're getting to the point where people are designing and implanted powered implants under the skin, and that's what you are working on now as a collaborative process with other people. Want to talk a little more about that?
Yeah, actually, we, Doug Cooper, who's over there at the implant table, and Cassix, Jeff in the back there, we're working on this leg implant, which started as an idea where I have this playing card. It's a Queen of Hearts, and she has a flashing light in her eye and a flashing light in her heart, and then an NFC tag you can program so she can sing you a little love song. And this works off of, you hide your phone under your clothes and you just scan the card and it does all these things. And it's as flat as a normal playing card. The idea came that I thought, what if I had a whole deck with NFC tags throughout the entire deck, and something similar to this exists, but it's RFID, not NFC. And anything that I put over my leg with my eyes closed and blindfolded, I'd be able to hear what it is in my head, and that's because this leg implant would have NFC to read the card, Wi-Fi to transmit it to my phone, and then the app that would be written to turn it to Bluetooth signal to my earpiece that would talk to my ear. So in real time, just waving it over my leg, I'd hear Queen of Hearts inside my head. And I could do that with anything. I could do that with an object inside a secret box in a different room. I could have someone pick one of 100 objects, put it in the box, the NFC reader reads it and sends it right to my ear, and I instantly know what it is. And if they change their mind, I can like, put the card in. No, he took the teddy bears in there now. Like, I'm endless.
So you were very open about the fact that you have these implants. I can imagine some magicians who get these done use them in their acts and then don't announce that they have these things to make it a little bit more mysterious. Do you have any indications there are people out there that are doing that? Are there other acts perhaps that magicians have that use these things?
I know of 3 other magicians that have them. I totally lied on that Senate thing where I said everyone on the strip has them. They don't. I just wanted them to really feel like they'd be screwing Chris Angel and David Copperfield and everybody else if they did it. But you know, in actuality, Chris thinks what I'm doing is crazy. And then there's another magician named Johnny Thompson who was 84 years old and passed away recently, and he thought what I was doing was crazy until I showed him a couple of the vanishes I could do with this coin on the back of my arm and how I could hear secretly in my head, and then instantly I turned this 84-year-old magician into liking implants and thinking this is really cool. There's another one who actually built the Magic Castle in Hollywood, and I was showing him how all my implants worked. And he's even older, he's gotta be like 90, and he's fascinated. He said, I can't believe I'm alive to see this, this is amazing. So it's not all of the old guys that think it's crazy, just some of them. And as far as the young magicians go, there's one guy in England who's actually designing programs that will work with these chips way better than the existing ones. So we can use them for magic tricks. And there's one guy in Canada who's using the magnets to unlock magnet blocks.
How far do you want to take this? Is there a limit of an implant that you wouldn't get that is too far or willing to go, replacing biology even?
No, cut my legs off and my arms. As soon as you got a better arm and leg, I'm there. I honestly know that we're not there yet because I've talked to people that have the best arms and they're just not there yet. But yeah, I would totally give up my left arm for like even a half-assed arm that they were developing at this point. So yeah, get at me if you've got that. I'm right here.
So your original motivations to get into this I'm interested in, was it that you are innately interested in using technology to expand human capabilities and then it just so happened you could also use this in your act? Or was it that you saw the potential in your act and then through that exploration got interested in what else it could be used for?
I saw the potential for magic. That's what I used it for first. I saw Grindhouse Wetware put out a video of Tim Cannon blindfolded with a bottlenose device, which is a sensor that would talk to his finger magnet, and he could literally tell where objects were on the table, which one was the biggest object, how far away it was, touch the side of it with that, and I thought, whoa, that's totally amazing for magicians, except, it's on a bracelet. Can we make anything like that that's hidden under the skin so I can just do it in an evening gown and nobody can figure out what I'm doing? So that's kind of what we're working on. The battery situation is a problem, like they outgassing batteries. I don't know if I thought I wanted to put a computer in my leg that had a battery in it, and now that I've been talking to people that really know about the technology, they're like, you really don't, because if you fly somewhere and that lithium battery explodes, like I'm basically going to be smelling salts in a scalpel on an airplane trying to cut this out of my leg before I die of lithium poisoning. So that doesn't sound fun. I think I'll go with that magnetic one that straps on the outside of my leg. It's a lot safer. Magnetic charging.
So when you first found out about this happening and were introduced to it, you were an outsider of the community. Mm-hmm. And many people are intimidated to get involved with a group of people who they don't know, especially who are doing weird things, seemingly like sticking things in their body. How has your entrance into the community been, and how did you approach that to get involved?
Let's see. I think I wrote Grindhouse for a bottlenose. I think that was probably, and it was you I spoke to. And I'd seen Tim Cannon doing this thing on the video, and I wrote Grindhouse, and I'm like, I need this. How do I want? And you guys got back to me with, we don't make them anymore, you had to assemble them, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard back that they had one left, and I bought it, and I was really excited. They sent it before I even paid for it, which was really sweet. And then I had a video call with Tim, and we just talked about magic and all the possible things that we could do with it. Then he said, why don't you go to this Body Hacks convention? And that's where I met Cass, and Doug, and the entire community, and you guys were all awesome, like totally welcoming. I've never been in a community that was so welcoming. And I'm sure that the science half of it are also just as welcoming because you want to share information. So I think that that's where the commonality is. When you want to share information, people are just really excited to talk to each other and do that.
So you mentioned that you're having second thoughts about these powered lithium batteries in the body, how they could have negative impact. What kind of due diligence do you do, and what resources do you go to check if something is safe, is reliable? Who do you trust, and how do you verify what you should or should not put in your body?
Strangely enough, I trust the people that were in the scene before me. So, I talked to Rich, I talked to Jeff, I talked to Tim, I talked to you, I see what you guys think about the builds, and I trust your judgment when it comes to anything that I put in my body, honestly. I also look at data sheets for the coatings myself. I'm not gonna totally trust you. I'm gonna also check the data sheets. So, I do a little bit of due diligence, and I use logic, pinch around my skin and look at if it can hold something or not, and it can.
So when you decided you first wanted to get an implant, how did you go about getting the physical implant itself and getting it implanted? I know that's a barrier for entry for a lot of people. Was that easy for you?
Actually, I bought the microchip from Dangerous Things, the first one I ever put in, and I sat on it for a year. I had no clue how to put it in myself. I didn't want to do something stupid and screw up. I didn't know that you could go on YouTube and learn how to do it in like 5 minutes. And then my friend called and said, oh, a piercer's coming to town. He wants to know if anyone wants magnet implants or chips. And I'm like, yeah. So we had like an implant party at my house, and I had as many friends come over as I could, and we just put magnets and chips in. So on my first shot, I got the wrist magnet, the smaller of the 2-finger magnets, and a microchip. Oh, and a temperature chip. So I got 4 implants my first time, like all at once.
So we might be limited here a bit by the technological limitations where they are, but what do you want to get? What implant would you like to see being made, whether it's for augmenting yourself or for use in an act?
Well, the thing, I don't know if you consider like cybernetic dentures, which is like the thing that I'm really excited about. It's not really an implant, but it kind of is because they're going to be on implantable posts so that they feel more like my skull. The company that makes this ring, this is actually a telephone that I can connect to my phone through Bluetooth and talk with my finger. I tried it and I wasn't that impressed with the sound quality because honestly the magnet in my ear is pretty much the same volume, and so I wrote the company and I went, your product sucks. I've got a magnet, I can hear better than that. And they immediately wanted to Skype me and talk to me about this magnet in my ear and about what I know about bone conduction technology. And I said, you know, I really love how this looks, I think it's badass, but when I bite it, it's so loud, it turns my head into a radio and it vibrates through my whole teeth and my head. Wouldn't it be cool if, you know, magicians, when they bring someone on stage, there's some that they do tons of different techniques. I'm not giving away a lot here to say this, but sometimes a magician will pick someone from the audience and tell them the answer that they want them to say on stage. It's called cueing, and you do it right there in front of the entire audience, and the audience will often wonder if the magician is cueing because their lips are moving, right? Like, what are you saying to the person? What are you talking about? But wouldn't it be cool if I could just literally make it more magical for the spectator on stage and myself and for the audience by just... And my voice just came out of my mouth, like my tongue and my lips even moving slightly. It's the ultimate ventriloquist act. So I think it could be used for that as well. Not only that, but I know it sounds crazy, but flashing lights are a really good misdirection when you're a magician, and I do use them in various objects, but wouldn't it be cool if you could be like a cartoon, smile and wink and have your tooth have a flashing light? Now, people are looking up here, your hands have done the thing, and you're boom, whatever you need to do. You could literally distract from anything. You could swap a flower for a tiger. They're not going to see it with that big flash in their face. So that's really handy. And then, of course, it's going to have a battery tooth that pulls out, a USB tooth that pulls out. I was thinking about fold-down vampire fangs, but I'm not that goth anymore, so.
Yeah, I think a light-up tooth in your mouth is definitely a good distraction
Totally.
if you're doing something like that. And that's the second time you brought up lights being used in acts. You mentioned another one earlier. Are there other acts that you are designing or working on or testing out?
Yes. I just want to show you. I'm totally giving away a magic trick here, but...
It's not live streamed or anything, is it?
It isn't?
So it's...
Okay, I hope no one's watching. No, I hope lots of people are watching. Let's see if I can remember how this works. Okay. So this flower here, I can take the green light out here, put it in the flower, and then I want to take the green light out and throw it in my skin, like underneath a bare arm. I don't know if you can hear me say that, but if I take lights out of the air, this lights up 3 different colors, and throw them under my skin, it would be a magnet implanted into my thumb that would trigger the light to go on, kind of like the North Star that you guys built. I think it went on for like 10 seconds. It would have to be at a specified time, like probably 5 seconds. Throw the light under there, make people go, ooh, ah, and then pull it back out at the 5 second, like time it perfectly, and then change the color and throw another color under a different part of my skin. And so that's what we're working on now, is like blue, red, and green lights that I can just put in different parts of my body just for this stupid flower trick. It's like so stupid, but it's a proof of concept. It's to see how far we can push things and what we can do to just make implants look cooler and attract more people to it, because the more people that do it, the faster we're all going to be robots, right?
Have you gotten any implants removed, or do you plan to?
I had the little magnet removed before I put the big one in. And it wasn't a little magnet, it was still a pretty big magnet, but it wasn't as big as this one, and I wanted to go bigger. And yeah, so I had that pulled out to put a new one in, but other than that, no.
And speaking of that large magnet there was a very simple trick that was done recently on video where you basically disappeared a coin into your arm.
Yeah, I just did that to you on your chest.
Well, no, the one that was you hold the coin over.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, at the Magic Convention recently, there were a bunch of magicians around, and they saw this. And instantly, the way they think is they put a coin on my arm without you seeing the dent first, and then they just vanished it by letting it drop below. And everyone was blown away. It got 16 million hits on TikTok. So I followed it up at DEF CON with a friend of mine who has a square implant that is also like a little computer, and I vanished a matchbox into her arm. So, you know, there's there's many different ways to achieve magical illusion.
And I think we're at a very interesting point where reading the comments on that TikTok video that went viral, a lot of people were saying, oh, it's fake skin, there's fake flesh there, and it's an
Nobody even thought
illusion.
implant. Like,
Yeah,
nobody.
I wonder how long it's going to be until, oh, it's an implant, it's going to be the go-to reaction for any magic trick. Do you see that eventually?
Yeah, I give it about 10 years. So if you want to do implant magic, you've got about a 10-year window before people just start like going back. Yeah, because we're going to be so cybernetic in a decade. So yeah, who's going to really, how can you even work as a magician anymore when that's going on? I don't know.
And since we are at a conference that is primarily focused on DIY bio, is there any involvement of you in that aspect of the science?
Well, other than the fact that I'm testing coatings that aren't perfectly tested, they're not medically sanctioned coatings that I have in my body, and I'm going and getting my liver and kidneys checked and making sure that I'm vigilant about not getting sick, and that if anything looks wrong, that I report it. Nope.
So what is next for you? What do you plan to be doing in the coming years? Do you want to keep improving on acts? Or I know you mentioned that you're passing on your knowledge to other magicians now and seeing
I'm
where
sick
they
of
take
performing.
this.
I honestly am. I'm at the point now where I'm really into designing and creating, and that's a point a lot of magicians get to, where they just get sick of being on stage and they decide to build for other magicians, and there's a huge market for it, like absolutely huge, which is where designing these locks that are easily opened with NFC chips really come in. You can unlock gun boxes and gun safes and any kind of box, so just basically making things that work with implants for magicians is what I would really like to do. And then, going to magic conventions and telling magicians about what we're doing so that they know and they can actually improve on it, buy it, create with it, advance the knowledge.
So one thing I know that we've talked about is the idea of magicians who might want custom implants designed for them exclusively to use in acts. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, because we are a community here that is very much about transparency and open source, making designs available to the public. And if people are creating technology to use in acts, that is by definition they want to keep that secret and locked down. Do you see any conflict there of the initiatives of the community and how people might want to use these?
That's a really good question. I've never even thought about the answer to that one. Magicians lie and cheat, and they tell you that they're going to lie and cheat. So I don't know. I feel like magicians are exempt from that. I mean, if you've spent time designing a trick and you don't want to share it with the biohacking community about how you're discovering a coin in a box or whatever, I don't know, man. David Copperfield would win that. Like if he took you to court and you tried to say, share, and he'd be like, screw you. I developed it, I paid for it. And that's kind of how magicians look at their stuff. Not me so much. I mean, I'm live streaming and telling you how magic tricks are done and the things I want to build, and I'm happy when my friends build things that are similar to what I want, and I just want to see everyone creating.
So I know that we are heavily encroaching into the allotted lunchtime here in this conference because we got started very late. So I do want to keep time open for questions, but are there any other topics that we didn't approach in this conversation that you would like to get to?
My phone fell on the floor. So let me just look and see, because I did make notes. The teeth, the Wi-Fi, the secret hearing, the coin steals, the manipulations, and the one thing that I wanted to develop. And it was something that might work with what you guys were doing with the embedded vet, which is a badass device that goes inside cattle to tell a whole bunch of stuff about their biology. But that same device, I want it because I feel like I could turn it into, and with the accelerometer that's in it, I could be on stage and tell someone to draw a simple picture. And they would say, draw a flower, right? And I know it's a flower because I've peeked at it. And I'm talking, and I go, so you drew something that looks like a circle and it's got some petals on it, is that right? And a stem and something, you drew a flower. So by doing that, I just drew a picture, sent it to the backstage, and printed on a printer, and my assistant's like taping it to the back of a chair in an envelope, and it's hanging from this box. Like there's so many ways to do this trick. So I think that that's something I really want to do, is have an accelerometer so that when my hand moves, I'm drawing pictures that can print on a printer backstage.
Yeah, I think one example of the ways we can use this technology, I think a good one to bring up here in Vegas is Tim Cannon here is in the audience. We recently did I guess it was a couple years ago at this point, we did a video with Vice, and we used the bottlenose device. And what we had done was we had set up a poker game, and he has an implanted finger magnet, and underneath the table we hid this bottlenose device that was communicating with his hand. So as he was playing poker, I was circling the table with a cell phone, looking at the playing card information of all the players, texting that essentially to the bottlenose device, which is then transmitting that information to his finger, which allowed him to win the poker game.
Wow.
I think it's a good example here in Vegas where
That's
you're talking
badass.
about sending secret information and things like that. And yeah, the Wi-Fi device that you're talking about is quite complex, has a lot of features, Bluetooth and connectivity, but you can do that with something implanted as simple as just the magnet with an external device.
Right.
Which is something that many people could explore at this juncture without getting the more potentially dangerous, more invasive implants. Something as small as a magnet could do that.
It's like your first tattoo, and once you get that, you're gonna want more, and you're gonna want more, and that's what we want. So go do it.
And this was definitely published a few times already, but I will say it again. Cooper is over there with implant kits. He has many different varieties to choose from. So if you want to get your first on your route to 26 or whatever you're going to end up getting, I'm sure at some point, head over there and please get an implant, because it's a great experience that honestly I can't frankly say that because I don't have any myself, because I'm still waiting for the functionality to increase. But having the experience. Okay, I need to
I'm gonna backhand him right now.
I need to defend myself now. I think that's intentional because it's great that I can defend the idea of getting implants without being defensive. So I think people have to ask themselves, if someone gets asked, why did you implant that? Then they are immediately defending their own choices. Whereas if I am asked, why would someone want to get that implanted? I can justify it from a perspective that is not me saying, this is why I did it. And I think that adds a little bit more credibility to it.
Yeah.
So I think that's one perspective there. But yeah, whenever the implant functionality comes out that I want, forget being a beta tester, I will be the alpha tester. I'm just not a body modification guy. But when it comes out what I need, I will totally get that. So what I'm really looking forward to is the Vivo key that Emil Rafter has designed, which has the potential to replace the functionality of many different types of RFID and NFC tags, which can do identity verification or payments or store small amounts of data. But the issue with that is there's so many different protocols and standards, and some of them are proprietary and some of them can't be copied and they're locked down. And I don't want to get 30 chips to one start my car, one make a payment. I want one chip for all of those things. So that's what I'm really looking forward to experimenting with more. So I guess we could open up to questions now if anyone has any.
Hi, I was just wondering, what are the potential problems with your kidneys and livers that you're testing for?
Well, with any kind of coating that you're putting on anything that isn't medically sanctioned, you need to make sure that it's safe. So I didn't choose the coating; they had already been using it. But it's a coating that is already used in the medical field. It's just not used for our purposes. So we found that it works really well, and I was happy to be one of the beta testers. There were quite a few of them. I wasn't the first.
But I guess I was wondering specifically, I guess you're getting liver function tests and renal tests. What potential toxicities or, disorders is what specifically are you looking for in the test?
Looking for raised white blood cell counts to see if my body is reacting to anything to kick it out, and that would be like the primary signal that something's wrong, and there hasn't been. So, I mean, my body's pretty much accepting everything. Even this magnet in my arm is getting sucked into my arm deeper every year, and it's going to make a dent in my bone. It's going to erode my muscle. That's fine. That's what we want. That's how you integrate with technology. It's not just going to stick out underneath your skin. You want it to sink in and be part of you. So.
Okay, I was just wondering because that would be a CBC, the white cell count, and you said that initially you were testing the kidneys and the liver, and those.
I'm not a scientist, so if this is a more science-based question, I go to my doctor and I ask him to check me to make sure that I don't have any poisons inside my body. Because if the coating was poisonous, it would show up in my livers and kidneys, from what I'm told.
Okay, I was just wondering more.
Sorry.
I'm a doctor, but I was just wondering.
Okay.
Okay, so as a girl in STEM, if you could sum up quickly how you deal with being in a boys' club, like you said, because dealing with old magician dudes is very similar to dealing with old engineer dudes. And then after you answer that, you should definitely consider doing what they did in the Prestige with your magnet implant. If you can get out of the tank of water with your implant, show up.
Probably could, right?
Yeah.
Get out of the tank of water with the NFC chip.
That's my recommendation for your last
All right, I gotta practice holding my breath because I'm not that great at it yet. Being a chick in the Magicians Club is getting better. It's getting way better. Like just in the past 3 years, there's been so many women coming out and performing, and the Magic Castle is literally booking at least a woman every week now. I don't know if it's a purposeful initiative or what, but I'll take it. And everyone's trying really hard to get out there. Conventions are starting to book women to talk and lectures and to perform, so I think it's just going to improve. Also on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, they did a whole episode where they were just talking about how women are the future of magic, and they had 2 women replicate a trick that they did years ago on Saturday Night Live, so they're doing their part too. Everyone's kind of helping.
Yeah, so like when you did have to deal with the old magician dudes though, how do you like become resilient to them degrading comments and such?
I go outside and smoke a joint.
Got it. That's all the answer I need.
More questions?
Ever do anything with ferrofluid or anything?
Actually, a friend of mine just created something really amazing with ferrofluid. He's always wanted to levitate liquid, and so he got one of those magnetic, light bulb levitating things that spin around. And he levitated a ball, and then he poured the ferrofluid onto the ball. So he's developing something where he can levitate a liquid ball of ferrofluid, and it's just spinning around. It looks really badass. So I just saw that on Instagram like 2 days ago. I have it myself. Like I can touch it and when it's inside a jar of water, but other than that, not so much.
I will make one plug here. If you want some more from Anastasia, I recently did interview her on the Future End podcast. We go in a little bit more detail about some of these things. And if you're interested in these implants in general, many other people here at this conference have been interviewed on there as well. Rich Lee, Emil Grafscher's stuff is here. Tim Cannon, Josiah, they've all been featured on the podcast. So if you want to learn more about any of those things, please check that out.
All right, thank you very much. Please,
Lunchtime.